Willkommen zurück. Das heutige Thema betrifft die Schnittstelle zwischen Schwangerschaft und Epilepsie und die gegenseitigen Auswirkungen. Konventionell beginne ich mit der Ätiologie und demografischen Verteilung der Epilepsie. Darüber hinaus beschreibe ich die Arten von Anfällen und ihre Besonderheiten basierend auf dem betroffenen Lappen oder der betroffenen Region des Gehirns. Als nächstes erkläre ich die Schritte zur Behandlung von Epilepsie in der Schwangerschaft und die Teratogenität einiger Antikonvulsiva. Hier kommen die zentralen Folien, auf denen ich die Differentialdiagnose zwischen Epilepsie und Eclampsie durchführe, indem ich die diagnostischen Parameter und Metriken zeige. Abschließend möchte ich auch die Betreuung von Neugeborenen und das Stillen von Säuglingen epileptischer Mutter. Теперь короткий переход хода. Многие спрашивают, почему я не делюсь своими знаниями на русском языке, особенно когда старые коллеги хотят услышать мой взгляд на застывшие и укоренившиеся темы. В ближайшее время я представлю на русском языке. На ум приходит Иценко Кушинг, особенно когда роль Николая Михайловича Иценко, который в 1926 году впервые описал болезнь или синдром гиперкортицизма 6 лет до Кушинга, не признана в США, где это состояние просто известно под именем Кушинга. Ну посмотрим. Это зависит от розыгрыша, который непредсказуемым образом назначает мне следующие темы для обсуждения. Now, I'm offering a brief recess to share my own experience as a practicing OBGYN in managing epilepsy and eclampsia. I'll proceed in English so everybody among my subscribers will understand. My career curve was rather unconventional, as from day one at age 25 I was an independent doctor, independent decision maker for an entire region, masses, where the female population of reproductive age is over 7,000. Why age 25? Because I got my MD degree at age 22. I finished high school at age 16. The same year I was admitted to the medical university when I was only 16. As the university was 6 years full-time, I earned my MD degree at age 22. We had one more year for an internship or specialization, so I became a licensed OBGYN doctor at my age 23. More than a year was gone on job search, and finally at age 25 I got a job in a regional maternity hospital. The capital city was overcrowded and the new graduates would typically find rare openings in the regions. The region where I started working was so close to the capital where I lived that I commuted to work and returned home every day. It was just a 15-minute drive from the capital. I started my career at a maternity hospital, a 2-story small building. The first floor had a small admission and triage room. Then we had 2 rooms, 4 beds for high-risk pregnancies, 2 rooms, 6 beds for postpartum care, and a large maternity ward. Second floor had a large neonatal hall with 16 beds and 1 ICU room. That's it. We didn't have a basic lab. We didn't have an anesthesiologist. In the event I had to perform a C-section or any other obstetric surgery that would require general anesthesia, I had to summon the anesthesiologist from the regional hospital, which was a little less than 2 miles away. 4 OBGYN doctors, including myself, worked in that maternity hospital. When I started the job, all 4 of us had to present every day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and one of us had to remain for the night shift until the next morning, 9 a.m. As it was overcrowded, we got permission from the region's chief doctor to change our work schedule so that only one doctor would take the duty alone from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. 24 hours and then report the shift to the next doctor arriving in the morning. As it was 4 of us, splitting the months would give each of us 7 to 8 shifts per month, each shift lasting 24 hours. So I am a 25-year-old young doctor with zero experience and a lot of confidence, starting my career as an independent decision maker responsible alone for the entire region containing over 7,000 women of childbearing age. And there is no second doctor with me. Those who have worked in remote regions would know that we handle the most complicated, nearly catastrophic emergency cases. I had parturients admitted in the second stage of labor with a transverse lie and a broken amniotic sac, and there are no minutes left to transfer the patient to a tertiary hospital. So I would just commence local anesthesia, including pudendal nerve block, sedation, apply the oxygen mask, put on the IV drip, and perform alone internal podalic version with bridge extraction. Often, I would apply obstetrical forceps, which in my view is a harder procedure than the C-section. One time I performed an intracardiac injection with adrenaline to a postpartum patient with amniotic fluid embolism after she delivered a large fetus, 9 pounds. I inserted a long spinal needle in the fourth intercostal space between the ribs directly into the ventricular chamber of that woman's heart. Things were even harsher than one could imagine. After the Soviet collapse, we were in economic depression and the government would cut our light, providing electricity only 4 to 5 hours per day. I'm talking about the early 90s. At first, the schools, businesses, and of course the hospitals had to figure out how to accommodate by scheduling procedures at specific times of the day. What about the emergency cases? It would take weeks that the hospitals would install accumulators or small portable power stations so that when the light would go, the power station would allow the surgeons, for example, to complete the surgery without interruption. During those first weeks of accommodation, I worked in darkness. The bleeding patient would arrive in miscarriage when it was just me and the midwife for the entire region, and we would ask the cleaning lady, the janitor, to hold the flashlight on the patient's arm so I would find the vein and switch on the IV drip, and the midwife would meantime hold the candlelight near my hands so I would perform the curettage and stop the bleeding. I don't regret for that experience. In fact, I'm proud of it, as it built my character and amplified my courage. Later, I worked in the capital in an elite hospital, which was the WHO Collaborative Center and where my mother worked. After, I wrote grants and managed programs, traveled intensely, studied and spoke in many countries, but nothing can ever be compared with those 6 years of experience in that small maternity hospital. So, why did I bring this up in the current discussion about epilepsy or eclampsia? As I told, it was 4 of us, 4 OBGYN doctors, each responsible alone for the entire region during a 24-hour shift. So when my shift would end at 8:30 a.m., I had to run inventory and report to the arriving doctor the events under my watch. During the inventory, the first item to report was the emergency shelf. We called it the code blue shelf. Among many essential things, we had to report the tongue holder. Why a tongue holder? Because when a pregnant woman would be admitted with severe preeclampsia, I had to be prepared to manage the anticipated eclampsia to ensure that when the patient enters a coma or suffers cardiopulmonary arrest, does not have obstruction of respiratory airways with her collapsing tongue until the anesthesiologist would arrive from the neighboring hospital and I would be able to perform C-section or terminate the pregnancy. There will be specialists questioning those very old, almost medieval methods of obstetrics, confronting that today nobody would perform a cephalic version of a term singleton fetus or apply obstetrical forceps, as those catastrophic cases could be resolved by C-section. That's true, but you must consider that I was working in a maternity hospital without any anesthesiologist or even a basic lab. Of course, these harsh conditions were addressed later in the third year of my job, as our maternity hospital was integrated into the regional hospital that had fully installed anesthesiology department and several specialty units. So we finally took a deep breath. Now, typically, the second section of my presentation is a legal analysis of malpractice cases. Der zweite Abschnitt ist eine rechtliche Analyse von Kunstfehlerfällen. Ich habe 3 Fälle zusammengefasst. Dann kommen die Wiederholungsfragen, die entscheidend dazu beitragen, Sie mit dem Thema vertraut zu machen. Ich schreibe diese Fragen und verlasse mich dabei nie auf irgendeine Quelle. Den Lösungsschlüssel finden Sie auf Folie 40. Jetzt verabschiede ich mich, damit Sie die Präsentation noch einmal auf eigene Faust durchgehen können.